News coming to us about Elon Musk and one Letitia James, because this is kind of a big deal, guys. He's saying that she is effectively infringing not only on his rights, right, as a company itself, X, but on his freedom of speech. So it seems that this has actually already been decided in the Ninth Circuit Appellate Court, which, by the way, also has a ruling I'm going to get to a little bit later in the program, that is in defense of Trump and using the National Guard or federalizing the National Guard there in California. We will talk about that because it is now official. They're siding with him. But in this particular situation regarding Elon Musk and Letitia James, she's trying to say that she wants a series of rules put in place so as to make sure that X does not have any disinformation, misinformation, etc. on it. He's going back at her and saying, look, this is a total violation of the First Amendment, and you can't weasel your way in between the company and the individuals and you as a state AG. And it kind of reminds me of her going in, remember, with Deutsche Bank, and she was like, I'm gonna muscle my way in between this private transaction that's going on between an individual and a bank, an institution. And we know how that went, right? Well, I mean, so far so good for her, but I have a feeling that's going to be flipped around pretty significantly. And that $500 million fine that she's hit Donald Trump with is going to go away. As for what's going on in New York, this is a big deal because it's actually already been decided in the Ninth Circuit in the appellate court out in California, where Elon sued out there already last fall and said, look, you guys are a total violation of First Amendment. And the Ninth Circuit Court, which is pretty liberal, ladies and gentlemen, said, yes, you know what, Elon, you're right. And as a result of that, the state had to say, we're going to back away. They wanted like quarterly assessments of whatever was going on from misinformation, disinformation, et cetera. And he's making the point that they're a private company. They can do what they want. So once again, Letitia James misusing taxpayer dollars. Again, this has been decided. It's already been decided at the Ninth Circuit, at the federal level. So what does she want to do? Take it all the way to the Supreme Court? I'm telling you, you're going to get the exact same decision because we have that little thing called the First Amendment, She doesn't seem to get that, right? Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press. Okay, that's the key line there. First Amendment. Letitia James, didn't you go to law school? Some law school somewhere? This woman is so rabidly political. That's all she cares about is politics, politics, politics. And, good for Elon for standing up to her. Somebody's got to, for goodness sake. So here's the story breaking on AP. Musk's ex sues New York over requirements on how they're going to handle these quote unquote problematic disinformation, misinformation posts there on social media. Letitia wants him to take it all down. And he's saying, hang on. I am a private company. I can make these decisions myself. I don't need the state of New York in there deciding what can go and what can't go, because that would act as a damper on one's freedom of speech. And again, I want to point out, it's already been decided. Ninth Circuit already made the decision on this. New York, X says, the lawyers from X and for Elon say, is improperly trying to inject itself into the content moderation editorial process. They want to have these politically charged disclosures. And basically, it's the state's way of trying to generate public controversy about content monetization in a way that would put a lot of pressure on social media companies such as X, he's saying. And you know what? He's right. And I'm telling you, it's going to go down in this one. Just like California went down in this exact case. I mean, the exact same thing was put forward to the panel of judges. And so it's already been decided. But Letitia, once again, hungry for attention, once again, trying to misuse everyone's money, is trying to bring this forward now. And he's saying, look, you're interfering in private business. And most importantly, you are violating free speech. You are violating the First Amendment. And so you're not going to get anywhere with this. Again, to just point out that this went forward last fall, and it was a federal appellate team of judges that blocked portions of that California law, at least for now. And they're saying it's all on free speech. It's on the First Amendment. And so consequently, the state had to agree that they weren't going to get in there and try and do all this content moderation reporting. In other words, it is up to the individual platform. And this is something, again, that, Elon was all over back last fall when Democrats were saying, hey, listen, we need to win, so we need to control speech. This was Elon Musk's tweet that he put out quoting John Kerry. I mean, it's wild. So John Kerry said, quote, if Democrats win, we can change First Amendment to fight disinformation. Our First Amendment, actually, this was the actual quote, and it came from Daily Wire News that was reporting on it. They said, quote, our First Amendment stands as a major block. I mean, they're all like, gosh darn it, that darn First Amendment. Like, why do we have to have that, right? Oh, Kerry wasn't the only one. I mean, you heard them all over. There was like a chorus of people. Actually, they've even got songs that they've made up. We don't have to listen to those, but they're really bad and they don't sing in tune. All the Democrats with other silly songs about Elon and Doge and Trump, et cetera. But, they don't seem to grasp this very, very basic thing that is the First Amendment in the U.S. Constitution. And so he wrote at the time, the Democrat Party is openly stating that they want to change the Constitution to end free speech. And I got to tell you, you know what? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she was out almost as though she was anticipating this entire lawsuit between Letitia and Elon this week, stating the following. Listen very closely, guys, because what Kerry was saying or Elon Musk was insinuating back last fall doesn't sound a whole lot different from one AOC here this week.
I do think that several members of Congress in some of my discussions have brought up media literacy, because that is a part of what happened here. And we're going to have to figure out how we rein in our media environment so that you can't just spew disinformation and misinformation. It's one thing to have differing opinions, but it's another thing entirely to just say things that are false. And so that's something that we're looking into.
Yeah, you keep looking into it. I'm going to go back to this. Okay, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press. Okay, guys? So you just don't seem to get it. You just don't get it. So, what do you classify as misinformation or disinformation? I do recall there was a time when it was misinformation and disinformation to talk about that Hunter Biden laptop. Right, the Hunter Biden laptop that actually belonged to Hunter, which if you listen to those in charge, didn't. It was just misinformation and disinformation to say anything like that. Right? That's why we went through everything that we went through with the New York Post, oldest newspaper in the country. We're going all the way back to Alexander Hamilton losing its Twitter account, which was then Twitter, and Elon saying, well, this is crazy. And he stepped in, he bought X, et cetera. The rest is history. But in other words, if AOC is out there saying, well, I'm not going to allow this misinformation, disinformation, well, who is she to decide that? Because sometimes, getting to the truth is kind of ugly, as we found with the Hunter Biden laptop, which turned out to be indeed his, despite the fact that you had 51 ex-spooks saying otherwise. And thus, you can't live in a world where people can't express themselves freely. You can't live in a world where the New York AG, like Letitia James, is going to come in and muscle her way in and say, Elon, I want to know, how did you verify this or that or this or that? He's like, okay, you're going too far. This is a private company. You can't actually interfere with this. And you know what? He's right. And this has already been decided. Okay, why are we going back and going through all this old territory? Because Letitia wants her moment in the sun. For goodness sakes, she makes you want to puke.
And you want me to sit in my seat and stand idly by and allow this craziness to happen? You can come after me if you want, but you elected me to stand up. You elected me to use the law. You elected me to go to court. You elected me to continue to challenge this administration. You elected me to stand up for the least of God's children. You elected me to continue fighting on. And I will fight on.
You keep fighting and fighting and fighting and using our money to do all these fights of yours. Why? Because you want to be on some kind of national platform. I think this woman has very big political ambitions, serious political ambitions. But I think they will be thwarted. Because, one, I believe that case, the Deutsche Bank case, unbelievable example of her extending and overusing her power, something that came up in the appellate court discussion, with the lawyer, Judith Vale, who was representing Letitia James, because you see, once it gets to the appellate court, they try and get smarter people in there, the less political people. So she's arguing this case, poor woman, like good luck arguing that thing. I guarantee you that court is going to turn that whole thing around. What they may actually have to put forward are some restraints on the use of an attorney general's power in the state of New York, because she was just off the reservation, for goodness sakes. And meanwhile, you got this one going on as well, with her trying to say, okay, I want this, this, and this from Elon, because I want to make sure that he's not pushing forward what I consider to be misinformation and disinformation. What you, Letitia, consider. Okay, well, we know what you're going to consider, right? Because you got your little political agenda. And that's where the court is going to have to step in. Once again, a waste of time and resources. It's already been decided in the Ninth Circuit, but she wants her moment in the sun. So here we are.